Let's have it there.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Morning, guys. Good morning. It would have been a lot better if I'd understood one of those words, but clearly I don't. I have 45 minutes to talk about a lot of different subjects very quickly. You guys okay with my accent so far? Awesome that we'd actually acquired Go Viral a couple of years ago. A great success story out of this region, so there's that. Hopefully you don't feel like this by the end of the afternoon. That's my favorite gif at the moment. That's kind of how I feel most of the time. So let's get on with it. Here's the deal. Before we talk about what's next, we've got to talk about now, and we've got to talk about what's near. So let's get on with that as well. So here's the deal, man. There's interesting gestural technologies coming out that are trying to tell us how we're going to drive in the future. And that's great, except for this. The question I get asked is, are we all clear? Are we all clear on what consumers are up to? The answer is typically no. Because I think we're massively confused. Now, if you look at this is the bag that I had acquired at the Venice Biennale a couple of years ago, and it sums up where consumers are. If you look at that, we have all of these amplifiers, but we still don't know who the hell we are. So I want to talk about the consumer for a little bit. Now, as you can tell by my accent, I'm not from here. I'm from Australia, not Britain, like my good mate Jonathan Oliver, who you're going to see soon. I'm not from New Zealand, not from South Africa. I'm from Aussie. And that's the town I grew up in. That's the house I was born and raised in. That's my family. I'm one of 10 kids. That's 12 people, 2-bedroom house. There's a whole bunch of therapy there I'm still trying to get over. But here's what's interesting. At 17, that's when I bought my first car. When I was 17, when I had freedom, independence, and self-expression. That was the generation I was growing up with. Now, I don't have kids, but children under the age of 2, 37% of them can operate your swiping devices. And look at the way they play with analog, man. I could watch this shit all day. I mean, bless them. Isn't that amazing? And those of you who have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But here's what's really interesting. It's no longer about brands trying to get consumers to consume content. No, those days are well over. They're much smarter. The consumer is now the curator, the critic, and the curator of great experiences. And they're swarming to bright lights. So just when you think you've figured out the platforms you want to stick your brand on, guess what? They're running to others. So if you want to know what the theme is for this year, it's more and more and more places that you need to think about putting your brand in this fragmented world that we're in. But one thing that I can assure you, that the audiences that you're amassing now have an audience. So that's the power of the human network, really. Don't worry about ones and zeros. We care about why there's, humans relating to humans. Okay, but before we get there, we have to understand that I believe the consumers today are the renegades. They're like the Charlie Chaplin of our generation. So when he went to Hollywood, he was considered a renegade, a free thinker, an extrovert, a total revolutionist. And I believe that's exactly what this consumer base are today. They have more access, more tools, more capability to do things than I've ever seen any other generation. But we're still at this point where we're talking about personal expression as the new form of entertainment. And if I go and Google selfie, this is the sort of shit I find. Crazy, right? Smart dog. And you've even got people doing this sort of stuff. Look at this, man. We've got extreme selfies. This is the tallest building in Hong Kong. Say goodbye to your breakfast. Check that out. And these little bastards are falling off these buildings, man. It's a crazy place we're in. So, supposedly we've moved on from selfies. We're now talking about taking photos of our ass. Belfie is a thing. You can now buy a Belfie stick, so you can make that whole thing so much easier, brothers and sisters. Okay, and here's the challenge, though. Do we believe that this generation's a throw-up? I actually thought they were really selfish. When I talked to these younger generation, I really thought they were selfish. But there's research that we've done at AOL that's contrary to that. They say they're more of a we generation. In fact, they're more interesting because they think about social not just as a place to amplify, they think about social for good. And while we're trying to amass these honeycomb big audiences where we can have these, popularity contests today, that's what these groups aren't doing that. These connected generation are creating these closed walls where they're having these deep, intimate conversations that are more peer-to-peer, not en masse. So one thing I would say is niche is the new mass, and this is what they're doing. They're creating protective communities as opposed to popularity contests. And we're doing things like this, man. We're taking a photograph of our cat, we tag it, put it up on Instagram and say where we're located. There's a website called iknowwhereyourcatlives.com, so I can find out where you live, dude. So you have to think about your privacy a bit differently than where we are today. Now, if you think about this generation, they want to achieve happiness, they want to spend time with their family and friends, they want to be true to themselves, but they want to be financially stable. Guess what? These values are more closely aligned with their grandparents' generation than their parents' generation. But they just have different expression engines. That's great because human nature is changing, but we've still got these values that are ingrained. But they're way busy. They get a lot of information from their feeds, but they're a big spend for us globally, $2.45 trillion spend by 2025. And at that point, they're going to represent 75% of the workforce. So we have to take them seriously. Okay, so what's this mean? If you think about it, there's this research that Adobe did, which I think is quite good. They went out and researched the creative industry. And I know you're going to talk about data, and you're going to talk about a lot of those sort of things over the next couple of days. But if I was going to defend the creatives, this is a question that most people are going to ask. Who in the creative industry think the best days are best to come? Can I have a show of hands who thinks it's 88%? Okay, 67? 51? 42? Nobody wants to play this game. There's no hands going up in this fucking crowd. How about that? How about this one? Trust their gut. So when you think about your second brain, your gut instincts, creatives that believe that they still trust their gut creatively, 89%, 79, 64, 52. Okay? It's about there. Now, what about technology, which is the basis of all the things that we're talking about today? Those creatives that believe that technology gives them the control. 91, 86, okay, 75, 57. So we're right about there. We still have a ways to go. Thank you for those who participated. Piss off those who didn't. Here's the deal. If you get it right as a brand, because things are changing, you're not just competing against advertising, you're competing against popular culture. And you know that from the world that we're in today of the frenzy of feeds. But creativity has to be redefined, because here's the deal, man. If you come to a publisher like us, the first thing we want to do is build you evergreen content, stuff that never expires. It's really good, great value for money. And then you think about seasonal-based content. How do you make sure people can bulk buy your products before they go and actually buy your competitors? Get it. But now there's the now. People actually want to own breaking news. That's what brands want to do. They want to own breaking news. So let's think about this. When Bendgate came out, which is the iPhone 6, when we sat on it, supposedly it bent, this is the first brand expression I thought, which was quite cool from KitKat. We break at 45 degrees. And then, of course, Samsung comes in, curved, not bent. LG, flexes on purpose. And then I thought this was the best one from Heineken. No worries, happens to us all the time. God bless them. So, here's the challenge. I talk to a lot of brands across the planet. A lot of them say, we're all in on digital. I'm like, really? How much you spend on telly? Oh, 80%. All right, all in on digital, my ass. But what's amazing is that we love tempos. We like to talk about stuff before, spiky on the now, and then we want to talk about stuff never in the next. And it kind of feel we treat people like a one-night stand. We have to open it up a bit and think about the brand attention curve like this. Before, the now, and the next. Be the calm and the chaos. I think that's a great time for people to be able to capture the hearts and minds of consumers. Right. Here's the good news. Digital is the first and only place you can own original breaking news as a brand. You can't do it across television, newspaper, radio, or print. There's too many gatekeepers. But when it comes to digital, you can have that direct dialogue as a brand. There are no restrictions, which is why it's really hard. And people's behaviors are influenced by their peers. So this more peer-to-peer recommendation is really, really working for us. The vast majority of people, though, physically will only recommend 5 to 9 brands per year. So you have to be different in this world of all this digital amplification if somebody's going to personally recommend brands to you. So that's where context matters. Build good content, put it in smart places. Sounds easy, really hard to do because we live in this world of fragmentation. But also understand that the world is completely overwhelming. We're hit with 1,900 media messages per day, and about 250 of those are ads. And then it's underwhelming because I can't find what I'm looking for. Search just doesn't satisfy what I'm looking for. Discovery seems to be missing in the connotation of where we are. And if you think about it, one of the largest contributors to stress today is media overload. So the stuff we're producing to try and capture the hearts and minds of consumers is stressing us out. There is the phantom phone vibration syndrome. My leg shakes about 6 times a day thinking I'm getting a call and it's charging on the desk. That stuff is for real. So this is something that we need to be careful of because we're in this world of fear of missing out. Right, but consumers' tastes have changed. Contrived in-your-face advertising doesn't work like it used to. That's why I think there's about presence. So brand presence is really, really important. Can you be the calm and the chaos and hold somebody's attention? This is the KPI I think we should work towards as an industry. Attention, because here's one thing I can guarantee you. It doesn't matter about what digital stuff is going to come at you this year. The one thing you cannot change is 24 hours in a day. But how I actually renegotiate my 24 hours a day to you is a choice that we can make with consumers. So again, time and attention is the only thing that I think we care about over time. Because of this. This is no longer a phone, in my opinion. I think I've taken about 3 phone calls this month. This is just a visual display device to all things that we have in our world. And, if you look at it in your area, in the Nordics, you guys are freaky on mobile connections, man. You're like an over-index on it, 150% on average. Everyone seems to have all of these mobility capabilities, whether it's phones and connections and MiFis and all those sort of things that you have. There's lots and lots and lots of connections here. But mobile still seems like an infant. A lot of people still treat it like that. And it's rubbish because in 1997, I could text message a Coca-Cola vending machine and interact with their products. You have to experiment. And experimentation is really necessary. And the reason for that is this. We've got these sort of rubbish ads in the mobile space today. And we've just taken desktop quality ads, we've just put them on mobile and said, have at it. And then we've got these really weird apps, man. So this is my Starbucks app. I live in New York City. Thanks very much for showing me a map of North America, Starbucks. Brilliant. And then this app here, I think I paid about $1.99 for this thing, which is how long I can hold my thumb for on my iPhone screen. That's the sort of stupidity we have out there. But there are blue sky opportunities, but you have to understand that the motion of changing, man. We're moving away from being desktop bound into all in this mobility space. So it's going back to this thing called utility, purpose, surprise and delight. This is the top use. No surprise, it's leisure than social. You get it. And if you think about it, most of what people do on the mobile experience today is all app-driven. 88% of it is app-driven. The rest of it is mobile web. But understand that people download fewer apps, they spend more time and more money than the ones they have. And what's interesting is 70% of consumers will try your mobile experience once. So unlike advertising, unlike television, unlike newspaper, you can iterate your way to success. When it comes to mobile, you better have purpose and surprise and delight, because otherwise, you're one and done. 70% of consumers will only try that experience once. Right. Here's the good news. About 80% of them, if they actually fall in love with your mobile experience, become your power user. That means we're going to shift the ratio away from awareness, which is amplified marketing, into advocacy, word of mouth, getting people talking about your brand. The mobility space allows you to do that. And imagine what you can do with these three things, brothers and sisters. Something that's always on, always with, always logged in. That's all you need to think about. That's the power of those three things is incredibly powerful. But if you are going to do something, as Leo said, as Da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. How cool is that? No doubt. Augmented reality. Now, this has been around for about 20 years. You guys may have played around with it. Now, with the mobile experience, it's really come to life. You can bring a brand expression like this to life. You know, and look at the augmented. It knows where those people are. So you can really bring characters to life and bring a brand expression that's experiential to life there. Amazing. If you're wondering about retail, this is Lego Digimirror. You can hold up the box in front of the mirror and it builds the product for you in front of your eyeballs. It's pretty amazing. If you're standing next to a 5-year-old kid, you've just bought that product, no doubt. Band-Aid, couldn't be more pedestrian as a brand than Band-Aid. They did a limited edition Muppet Series Band-Aid. You put this thing on your kid's saw, you swipe your smartphone or tablet over it, and boom, the characters come to life. Amazing. Toyota also did one like this. They understand that kids like to be a backseat driver. So they developed an app that allows kids to drive the same road contours as the parents, but put in a language they prefer, cartoon, and it's gamified. None of that stuff is ads. But there is a revolution happening in advertising, and it's this. Can we get the digital experiences that we're building passed on? Why do we care about that? We need to get it passed on because 70% of consumers globally will share stuff. And the vast majority of shares have a link, and that link goes to stuff we're trying to market. So that's the power of share. That's the verb that I care about. Not like. Like's rubbish. Share. We want stuff to be passed on. That's the one we need to drive to. Now, here's the challenge for you, though. 70% of consumers would rather read about your brand than be advertised to. And that's why this world of native came along. Now, when I grew up as a kid, when we built stuff, we used to call it advertorial. But now we want to have very cool buzzwords. We call this shit native, which I think is a little naive. Ha. But here's the deal, man. When people say, what's a really good example of what native is? Native's simple for me. Put your brand in places where you cannot buy media and supplement your media spend with this native experiences. Let me give you an example. So in the US, this is Trulia. Now, this is visited mainly by women and mothers who buy the houses we're in. So Mattel, the makers of Barbie, did a photo editorial spread of Barbie's house listed in Malibu for sale for $25 million. That, my dear friends, is a genius ad of native. Just placing your brand when you can't buy media. And they supplement it around the outside with some paid media. Programmatic. Whoa, everyone loves this term. Now, for me as a creative, I thought it was problematic. But it's really not, because here's what you have the opportunity to do. You can now find the right person at the right place at the right time. Now, the challenge to the industry, where it is going to go, though, is the right message. Today, you have to build tons and tons of messages out still. But I do believe that AI, artificial intelligence, will allow us to have amazing creative messaging so we can get on with the better parts of it. Right place, right person, right time, right message. Amazing. Cool. Moments. I think it's going to move like this. So the gravitas for me is here. I go into Google, type in Adidas. I check out some kicks, Think, okay, cool. Then I tab over to Facebook. I start farting around on my Facebook account. An ad will turn up from Adidas. It's called behavioral retargeting. We've been doing it for centuries. You minimize your browser, you pick up your cell phone, you head to lunch. The path to purchase today is destroyed until this happens, where I get a response from the brand saying, here's those kicks, turn-by-turn directions to the store, and here's a discount coupon to egg you on. Here are the sort of things that we're trying to develop in the industry. But marketing will always follow the audience's behavior. The challenge for you today is this. A lot of these things that are becoming very contagious do not have an opportunity to buy media. So as a brand ambassador in the room, you have to act like a human because there's no way to spend media in those environments. Okay, what else? The connected. So when you think about it, every year we're wondering about what's going to happen with the connected environment. And connectedness is a word you're going to hear a lot about, I think, in this year. And the connected human for sure, because of these things. There's this thing called the Internet of Everything. It's not, or the Internet of Things, as we call it. It's not the Internet of Things, it's the Internet of Everything. Everything you seem to buy today wants to be connected to your universal Wi-Fi. But they have to look beautiful because they're smart art objects. They're going to be in your houses. They're going to be in the places of existence. So you want them to look beautiful. And it's a $19 trillion business by 2020. That's a very big market for us to consider. We've got these beautiful bendable TVs that we get very excited about that immerse us in an entertainment in the video space. We've got little things like this cube that measures atmospherics, so it'll tell you whether you're running too much air conditioning in your house and it's creating pollutants. We've got things like this, which are fan. We have a company in the US called a Big Ass Fan Company. This thing knows when you've walked in the room and you know what your control settings are because you've connected it with your visual display device. So even your fan in your house is now super smart. Even this thing, for smokers in the house, this is called QuitBet. This is an electric lighter that gamifies how many cigarettes you smoke per day based on your levels. Dude, we're getting to a whole nother level here. And check this thing out. This is called Pacify. This is a smart pacifier that tells you when your kids start teething. I would have thought the screaming would be enough to tell you when your kids start teething. But anyhow, this is the Ring. I showed you that a moment ago when I first started by saying this is the gestural technologies that are coming out. So we've got lots and lots and lots of different things that are all kind of connected to this universal Wi-Fi. And where it does become interesting is where it becomes things that you address to your body, like the wearable space. And we're looking like we're measuring everything with these things. And if you think about it, there's 290 different wearables. And if you look at them, they're all over us. And fitness is the number one category. But look where they are, man. They're all over our bodies. And they're on our cats and dogs even. So we're really interesting to see where this thing goes. 290 plus of alone in the wearable space. And it becomes pretty apparent to me that it seems relatively easy to build a wearable. It's extremely hard to market one because they come in all different shapes and sizes. They have all these different textures. Now we have ones with screens on them, as you know. This is the one from LG. What I find fascinating about wearables is we've got all this amazing digital technology that looks analog on your wrist. There's something about the human psyche here that we haven't quite tapped into, but we've got things that look like this. We've got some that are trying to be fashion forward. We've got some that are oblong shaped and rectangular. We've got squares coming out. Obviously, you've got watch coming out. So all of these different shapes and sizes means that we're going to end up in a different place. We've also got some on our face like this, which is Google Glass. I like to watch this video just a little bit, just to show you there's absolutely nothing Google can do to make that shit look cool. Amen. You've got these guys like Meta Pro. They're also having a go at it as well, so it's not just Google Glass. But the idea of having wearables on your face is really here. Epson, bless them, they put a cable on their wearable. God bless them. Here's what's interesting, though. Currently, it feels like everything is limited to our wrist and our face. That's not true, because we're now seeing these sort of technologies as well. Check this out for a second.
Have you ever noticed that the world's most powerful men don't carry a wallet? In fact, have you ever seen them pay for anything? Well, now you can join them. Introducing the MJ Bale Power Suit. In collaboration with Heritage Bank and Visa PayWave, we've developed the technology to embed a contactless payment chip and antenna into the sleeve of a suit. So now you can pay invisibly wherever you go.
How about them apples? That's pretty immersive, right? Well, check this one out.
And is that far up there? Is that right? Yeah, that's it.
If a player is tackled, then you get to feel the physical effect of that. But if a player is nervous before a kick, then you get fluttering, you get that kind of sensory experience.
So if you think about this particular video,
really fast pathway.
You've got platable sensory technology embedded inside the t-shirts, giving you this incredible experience in your living room. This is not even happening at amusement parks. You've We've also got this happening. Check this out by Trident. This is actually a piece of wearable. Please kill the audio, gentlemen. This is something that these guys have invented to say, look, when you eat chewing gum, you can focus on the task at hand. Okay. So they created a wearable with a Japanese design and said, let's put the oversized pockets that when you put your smart devices in the pockets, it drops out the entire network. No notifications, no nothing, becomes a dead device, so you can focus on things. So where it's becoming interesting with the wearable space is that we're seeing additive technologies with the two I just showed you and subtractive technologies like this by Trident. Chewing gum company even going into the wearable space. That's pretty ambitious, very fashion forward. Cool. But one thing I will tell you is that we're going to move away from a world of searching, which is what we grew up in, into a world of built-in intelligence, where things will be pushed to us when, where, what, why, and how we need it. Little bits of information, lots of gratification. And because we've now got round, square, rectangular, we're going to see different ways for data to be sent to us because we've now got the wearable web. And we haven't had to think about that in the past because everything from cinema to smartphone is all kind of the same aspect ratio. But now we've got these different devices that seemingly are all tied to our wrists. So what else is hot? Your brand has to be an experience. You hear that all the time. Let me just show you a couple of examples that I think are quite cool. And they have to be emotionally driven. 75% of purchase decisions today are made emotionally. And then we justify those purchases rationally. That's how we sell to the head. But we sell to the heart first. Okay, here's a good one by Adidas.
TGV! Yeah! Oh my god!
Oh!
Is that right? Oh my god!
Nice to meet you.
Oh my goodness!
Right? Nice to meet you. You alright?
Oh my god.
There you go. The microphone. No, I've got the rubber duck.
You got a rubber duck.
Oh my god!
Can I get in?
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
You alright? Should we do some pictures?
All right, first things first. Here's the deal. If you don't tear up, you're a hardened bastard. Secondly, Beckham doesn't work for free. But in that 3-4 minute experience by Adidas over the Olympics, every single second has a blatant Adidas logo, but it just works because it's all emotionally driven. Versus something potentially really subtle. Check this out. Now, this is the song by Ellie Goulding. And what's lovely about this is this entire film is recorded on a Nokia phone. And you'll see it turn up somewhere here in a moment. But it's really interesting to see that there are brands willing to use their product. And this is a video clip that's released to the market. And you can see the phone appears in the hand there. Really, really subtle about this integration. But it doesn't really matter whether you do blatant or subtlety. If it's just powerful telling or powerful story, then it just becomes crucial to people and they want to pass it around. If you're a brand in the house and you insist on doing 30-second TV spots because that's your nature, just do something that's really quite amazing. Check it. Yeah. Yeah, mate. Everyone loves a fart joke. Okay. If you're going to do buys in places you already buy in today, be inspired to do something unusual in it. This is something that British Airways did, which you saw hopefully last year. It's a really good example of big data. It's a really a good example of big data using a digital outdoor buy creatively, where this child gets up, walks to the billboard and tells you where that plane's coming from. That's an amazing idea. Here's another one that I wanted to show you, because you have probably seen that, but you may not have seen this. This is by Axe. And what they did is they created 2 sequences for a 3D commercial in cinema. So most of us don't put our glasses on until we're actually ready to watch the film. But here's an example of somebody, if you close your left eye, you see one sequence of a young boy picking up a young woman and taking her home and sleeping with her, versus what would happen if you close your left eye and see what happens when he picks up a more mature woman. And very rarely do you walk out of a cinema or see any experience, you're like, wow, I really would have liked to have seen the other sequence. And that's a really good example of what can happen in cinema. I'll give you the story, by the way. When they're finished, the young lady pulls out her phone and starts texting. The more mature woman gets up and leaves. So there's that. But that's kind of a sense of what can happen when you think about the environments we already do buys in today. Perhaps reinventing your product is needed. So here's an example of Coke. I love this because they did this in Vietnam last year. They understood that a lot of their products end up in landfill. So what they wanted to do was actually change this product and say, instead of it turning up in landfill, what if we change the lids to be things that have purposed? Water pistol, bubble blower, pencil sharpener. So the product has another life. And by the way, that's just all in the product design cycle. So the actual product itself becomes the marketing tool. Cool. How about hacking your brand every day? Here's one from Toyota in Prague that I thought was really interesting.
I bet she never had a backstreet guy. I bet her mama never told her why. I'm gonna try for an uptown girl. She's been living in her white bread world. Yeah. Does it make me feel like?
So what's interesting about this is the fact that if this car believes it's got the most accurate GPS system on the planet, why not actually create an experiential that has this inbuilt karaoke machine and allows people to experience the brand in ways that are really different? That's an interesting hack. I don't know why people sign off disclaimers when they sound ridiculous, by the way, but seemingly humans do that as well, which I think is hilarious. Check this one out.
In many countries, DHL has more locations, more vehicles, and more employees. That's why DHL is faster. However, to communicate this with a classic advertising campaign is expensive. So why couldn't the competitors advertise for DHL? For that purpose, giant packages were taped all over with thermoactive foil and cooled down below the freezing point. In this way, the competitors picked up a black package that transformed back at temperatures above freezing and delivered the message in the most beautiful colors to addresses in the city that were not that easy to find.
Pretty cool, huh? The communication of brand happens in three ways. And it happens verbally, as you know, it happens visually, but it also happens visually. And the visualness, I think, is really interesting. There's probably not one woman in the house, I need to tell you, who designed those shoes. The power of color is a communication device, is really important. Tribal loyalty. Look at what Apple did 10 years ago. People still talk about Mac or PC, still today. And that happened about 10 years ago. Or Procter & Gamble, that really had no reason to advertise, but they decided to sponsor mums over the Olympics. So they built on emotion. They decided that the people who created the athletes should be the ones that are celebrated. These are incredible ways to think about how your brand dialogue can move forward. And I do know that this is the case, man. Design can also be marketing. Products that are physically beautiful. And you guys know this. There's nothing better than Nordic design. It feels beautiful. There's something about the design itself can be marketing in its own right. Can you be a supporting actor? Think about Ray-Ban. They never advertise the glasses, really. They advertise the people that wear the glasses, the Bob Dylans of this world. And if you have focus, you can cut through clutter as a brand. Can anybody tell me what Nike's tagline is? Just do it. Anybody tell me what Reebok's is? I've absolutely no freaking clue. But here's what's interesting about Nike's. And that thing was launched in, like, I don't know, 85, something like that. People say, if they're fans of Nike, they say, Nike don't just do it. Nike just helped me do it, because people love the Plus program that they built. So again, if you've got a really interesting brand dialogue, you can cut through the clutter. And I think that's really, really important when we're talking about this really noisy, fragmented world we're in today. But I can tell you this, brothers and sisters, there's going to be more connectivity, more screens, more customers, more data. And given that, we have to think about, instead of just remixing your brand, you got to reframe it. You got to turn things upside down. We're in a place where we're making stuff, not just doing, we have to do stuff that's really unusual. Make. And instead of innovation, let's scrap that word too. You have to do some invention. Because I think these platforms allow us to do reinvention of many, many things, especially when it comes to brand. But one thing I do know is video will continue to be everywhere. And we're freaky for it, just across the planet. I mean, 90% of us just want to engage in video, long form, short form. And who would have thought this show me generation room would actually allow us to have these amazing opportunities? If I'd said to you 18 months ago, you could tell a brand story in 6 seconds, who would have said, yeah? Crazy, man. If you can go and hold somebody's attention for 15 minutes in digital, God bless you, get on with it. You're no longer locked to 30s and 60s. And that's the beauty about this environment that we're in. And here's an example of 6 seconds. Genius. 6-second storytelling. And you notice it is definitely about storytelling, but it's so much more about the story than the telling. That's the world we're moving into. And a lot of people, when they see me present, they're like, man, all you do is show all the best creative across the planet. Not true, because this turned up.
Good. Wait. Good boy. Here. Good. Wait.
Turn on the ignition. Let's go. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good boy. Good boy.
Ride with me
Good boy.
on the streets right now. Hot issue on the streets right now.
So let's unpack this thing a little bit. This is a dog rescue company out of New Zealand. All they're trying to do is make sure dogs don't get killed, man. So they teamed up with me and said, we think dogs are smart enough, we can teach them to drive. They created these 3 videos. They go for about 3 minutes each. It's about 10 minutes of brand love. That'll never, ever, ever be a 30-second TV spot. But these are being passed around in the millions that people are enjoying. And you guys don't even give a shit about what I'm saying. You just want to sit down and watch this damn video with you. I can see it in your eyes. Completely lost you. But if you look at it, the point of view isn't that great. It's just a great story shot in a way that feels like it captures the hearts and minds of people. And that dog drives way better than a lot of people I know. Incredible, right? But here's the deal. I'm an artist. There are 3 colors that can make up every painting in the universe. It's red, it's blue, and it's yellow. 3 primary colors. And the 3 primary colors, when you guys are going to dream digitally, it's all about technology, content, and distribution. They're the 3 colors you need to think about before you go and be successful, in my mind, in digital executions. And if you think about what Jobsy said, a lot of times people do not know what they want until you show them. We're in that show me generation right now, and I think it's an amazing culture to be part of. So just to recap a couple of things I recommend, make sure you build a culture that's reframing, not remixing. Find the right people, because the power of the influencer matters today more than ever before. But just question this, man. Does mass mean like does popular mean like you've got people's attention? So just think about that. UGC communities, you've got to look at your brand in places where people might be talking about it that's really unusual for you. Not in just places where you're advertised. So go to places where there are conversations about your brand and have them. Consumer ownership, give it up. If you don't believe you don't own the brand, if you believe you still own the brand, go into Pinterest and type in your brand. Just get an expression of what people are doing with your brand today. It's very, very different. Make sure that your digital experience matches your physical product in some way, because it has to manifest in some way at the end. So if you're doing something that's really fashion forward digitally and you go into the store and the product hasn't been updated since 82, it's going to be really hard for people to reconcile. So your physical and your digital should be aligned, in my opinion. And when you're doing stuff, it's a great time to go out there and just fail at stuff forward. Don't go copying the competitors, because that's not innovation, man. You should be going out there and doing things that are really, really interesting, that allows you to do stuff that you can celebrate even though it doesn't win. Because not all the ideas are going to be the best ideas, but some of them are going to fail, but we should celebrate those. Don't just celebrate the wins, celebrate the ones that don't work and figure out what those learnings are. And with that, I hope you continue to be inspired. It's an absolute delight and treat for me to be the guest speaker today for the first of these in this area. And this is awesome to see you guys today. I'm going to hang out for most of the day so we can grab questions intimately whenever you want. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the 2 days. Take care. See ya.